Before we begin this episode of Super Deck Sunday, on a Monday, yes, on a Monday, I just wanted to let you guys know that Cap has a special message for everyone, and I would really hope that you guys could give it a listen, and if you have the ability, share the message, please. Even better if you can donate, that would be amazing, but if not, just liking and sharing would be so great. Okay? Here's Kappa's special message.
Humans! For friends! It's me, Cabby the Pug. I'm here today to ask you guys for some help. Lately we've been asking for a lot of help with our GoFundMe because Daddy and we've been struggling a lot. But before Daddy had his accident last year, you guys should know that we actually used to do a lot of giving away of stuff. We used to do donations, and we used to do petitions, and we used to help out with lots of stuff. Because Daddy and we like to give. We don't like to take. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to ask you for some help. See, over here, you're going to see a picture of my friends. This is Scot and Mo. Mo is a very, very nice lady, and Scott is a nice guy. And Mo, she's had some hard times because recently she had a hemorrhagic stroke. It's a really hard word for me to say. And because she had this stroke, she's in the hospital, and she's not doing super good. And her family, they could use some help. So there's this campaign on the GoFundMe too that you guys could share and help support if you can afford to. But also, they have this nice little page, and they keep posting updates there about how she's doing. And if everybody could, go there and share those updates on a regular basis, that would get the word out and help them get lots of support from people in need, that they could use help from. Okay, Dave? Okay. Thank you, humans. Love you. Bye.
Good morning, Magic Players and card collectors of all kinds. Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, officially, but we're here to do what we seem to do on a lot of Mondays lately. It's time for Super Deck Sunday on a Monday. That's right. We're doing our episode of Super Deck Sunday today. I am going to try and do this one a little more rapidly today for two reasons. First off, if you've been following 1 to 100 for the last month and a half, you've seen this deck. So this is more like a reveal for a lot of those people who aren't following that series. But I am going to still go over the strategies and some of the key aspects of the deck, don't get me wrong, that I've touched on throughout 1 to 100, but there isn't a collection of a single spot where you could just watch everything talked about all at once. So that's what today is for. In addition to that, I am going to also be doing this as quickly as possible because I'm running out of memory on the phone. And so I'm hoping to keep this video to under a half hour. We'll see if I can pull that off today, but because I am doing the deck from 1 to 100, there are a few cards that I changed, so I am going to be revealing those changes before we open this, and I'm also going to open this at the end of the episode for you guys. So before I get going too far into this, a quick shout out to Shomenuchi, because this is one of the 3 packs of cards that Shomenuchi sent to me. We still also have the Bloomburrow pack and the Phyrexian All Will Be One pack. I'm going to open those probably later in July, if not, maybe even wait till August if I possibly can. But we'll see. It depends on how finances go and things of that nature, and whether I manage to somehow get a couple extra packs here or there, that kind of thing. But I really wanted to do this today because I didn't want you guys who have been following 1 to 100 to feel kind of cheated. So that's the main reason why I'm going to open this pack, and I'm going to reveal the 3 changes at the end as well. But first, we're going to get into the deck. Now, I've split the deck up into 3 sections because for those who have not been following 1 to 100, I want this to be kind of one of those decks where people guess what's going on. Now, in the series 1 to 100, I put out, just for a quick explanation to people who have never seen it before. I pick one card and I build the entire commander deck around that one card. Sometimes it's a pair of cards, but more often than not, it's just one single card that is the focus of the deck. And in this case, I'm not going to reveal the focus of the deck until the end of the deck, but it is not the commander, which is normally what I would be picking as the commander and building the deck around that. But I built a deck entirely around this other card. So the commander has really nothing to do with the actual goal of the deck, other than it lets me play a bonus spell each turn. And the commander of this deck is Codie, Vociferous Codex. So for 3, you get a 1/4. You can't cast permanent spells as soon as this hits the field. So that is the downside to this card. You have to be really careful about when you play it, because you have to make sure that when you do, you already have the permanents on board that you want, or you have something in your hand that will let you destroy this so that you can actually get the permanents out. But what I love about this guy is pay 4, tap him, and you get Wooburg. And whenever you cast your next spell this turn, you can exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an instant or a sorcery card with lesser mana value than what you paid for. And until end of turn, you can cast that card without paying its mana cost, which is insanely good. All the other cards that get exiled this way get put to the bottom of your library in a random order. So the only downside to this guy is if you can't play the spell for some reason, let's say it's a counter spell that comes up, then unfortunately that spell stays exiled for the rest of the game. But everything else will get put to the bottom of your deck. So you're not going to lose the important cards in this deck. And we got 2 tokens here. We've got a Sapperling token and a treasure token. I really like this treasure token because it's kind of creepy, and the deck doesn't actually give me treasures. It has one card in here that allow me to give opponents treasures. So I thought that this was the perfect token to give to my opponent when I give them the treasures, because it's like, here's some really cursed looking gold. And then this thing makes a decent amount of Sapperlings potentially, but not a lot. So I'm not too worried about either of those tokens being in the deck. Like, they're not like going to be heavily favored. All right, let's get into the lands some here. I remember what I did. I couldn't remember how I split this the other night. Okay, so I'm going to go through a series of lands and the vast majority of the instants and sorceries now in this first chunk. So you'll see there is a ton of instants and sorceries in this deck. There's like 35, I think, which is why Codie is a good commander for this deck. But I have every single one of the temples in this deck. So I know a lot of people do not like tap lands, blah, 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 blah. You can just quietly shush. I love these lands for this deck because they allow me to scry one every time. And I am looking for something in particular in this deck, because there are 2 win cons in this deck, which you'll see in parts 2 and 3 of the deck. But I built this deck fully intending not to win through combat damage. This is one of the only decks I've ever built that focuses on winning through something other than combat damage. And when I say that, I mean the following. There are decks that I've built that have alternate win cons. This is the card that gives treasures out. So, I mean, it even looks really good because you've got that guy who looks kind of cursed, and then you've got the hand that looks cursed, and the hand almost looks like it matches the hand in the art. So it's like really perfect for the token. Anywho, sorry. What was I saying? Because there are the 2 alternate win cons, and like I say, normally what I focus on in decks, you're seeing a bunch of counter spells right now. I tried to include a decent amount of counter magic in here for sure, because I want to protect 1 or 2 things on board. But for the most part, again, it's more so than anything else, I want to scry and I want to draw a lot in this deck, because I'm really trying to get to those 2 alternate win cons, because this is a deck that cannot win through combat damage, really. Most decks that I build might have an alternate win con in them, potentially, but my goal has always been, as a former Yu-Gi-Oh player, to win through combat damage. This is one of the ways to get rid of Codie. It's a really good one in particular, because if the sacrifice creature is legendary, I get 3 cards instead of 2. So this is actually perfect for destroying Codie. Anywho. And then I've got a couple cards in here that let me get creatures back, because there are a couple creatures in this deck that I really want to keep on the field as much as possible once they get out. Not too many. Again, this isn't a deck that's focused on permanence. This is a deck that's focused on a lot more sorceries and instants. You are noticing that there are a lot of cards in here that are going to help me either draw or fetch a land or play an additional land. There are reasons for that, which you'll notice as we get through the deck later on. This is one of the cards that I added in. I was giving it a lot of thought, and one of the things that I realized I needed to get more of into the deck after I completed it on 1-100 was I needed more cards that would actually let me play lands, like extra lands per turn, not just like get them into my hand and stuff. So I took out Dance of the Tumbleweeds. Even though this would let me search for a basic and put it onto the battlefield, it costs 2 and a green to do that, plus an extra 3 to get the bonus ability. And I figured Growth Spiral is just way too much more value for me in this deck because it lets me draw a card and then I can play an additional land, which is nice. So it's basically Eureka Moment, but cheaper. Sorry. I got Stealth Mission in here. Hero's Downfall is another one for dealing with my commander potentially, or I can get rid of a Planeswalker my opponent's control. This is probably one of my favorite spells in this deck. When we get to the main focus of the deck, you'll understand why. But I really like this because it was going to wipe out everything except for my win con. Disentomb, get the creature back. Whirling Strike, Fade into Antiquity. Valorous Stance is a nice one because it can protect a creature or it can destroy Codie, since Codie has exactly 4 toughness. Take Up the Shield is a fun one. And then this one in particular I really like because although most of my stuff that will let me return stuff from the graveyard focuses specifically on creatures, this here lets me sacrifice a creature. So again, I can get rid of Codie this way. And then I can exchange Codie for another permanent card from my graveyard that immediately comes back to the battlefield. And what's perfect about this is it does not say non-land. So I can pick a land permanent, or I can pick the other alternate win con, which is also not a creature, and put either of them back onto the battlefield if I want to, I think. Now, I didn't get a chance to check on the second win con, because the second win con does have Shroud. So I don't know if I can target it in the graveyard. I think I can. I think you can only not target it in when it's in play. But I could be wrong. It might not be allowed to be targeted in the graveyard, which means maybe I can't bring it back. If that's the case, then it's not the main focus. It's just a bonus one that's in there in case I somehow get my first win con exiled. If both win cons get removed from the deck, I pretty much have to lose the game. There's no way I'm going to win. Some more lands for you, and then we're going to get into the actual permanents that I've got in this deck that are not dealing with the main focus of the deck. So we've got Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse. I have 2 swamps, 2 mountains, and just drawing your attention to this super quick. For whatever reason, I thought the new Capenna lands felt like they fit really well with this deck. So I grabbed 1 new Capenna basic for every type except for mountain, apparently. I thought I had a new Capenna mountain in there. I'll have to go home and get the proper one and put it back in. There's supposed to be a new Capenna mountain in there. I'll find it. In terms of permanents, we have a Suspicious Bookcase. We have Security Bypass. You're noticing that there are a few cards in here that make creatures unblockable if they attack alone, or just in general. There's a reason for that, which we'll get to when we get to the final pile. Spitfire Legek, although there is a reason for it in this pile too. I like this one because of the landfall. I can deal 1 damage to every opponent. There's going to be a decent amount of landfall going on in this deck. Another one that lets me scry each turn, so that's a good one to include in this deck. Glowspore Shaman is a fun one for this deck. I put the top 3 cards in my library into my graveyard, then I can put a land card from my hand or graveyard on top of my library. Pardon me for the burping. Essentially my goal with this is to return my win con to the top of my deck. If it ends up in the graveyard, this is just another way to get it back. Student of Ujitai, 3 and a white for a 2/4. I like this one because every time I cast a non-creature spell, I get 2 life. And that will include the trigger from Codie's ability, because I'm still casting the spell, even though I'm casting it for free. I will still get 2 life. So in theory, if Codie's out and this is out, and I can pay for the Wooburg trigger, I can actually get 4 life per turn, essentially, for paying 1 spell, which isn't bad. Archmage of Ruins is in here largely to reduce the cost of all the instants and sorceries by a little bit, which is nice, so I can use my mana a little bit more efficiently. But also, whenever I cast an instant or sorcery, I get to draw a card, which is pretty nice too. So I'm not going to knock that. Llanowar Scout is in here largely for the extra land drop, and that's another one that I added in after the fact. So another one that I removed was the Abundant Harvest. Again, I just felt like, you know what? We're revealing a bunch of cards. We're getting through our deck fast, which is nice. And I'm still tempted to throw the Abundant Harvest back in instead of, let me see, where is it? I just want to show you. I'm debating putting it in instead of Seek the Wilds, because Seek the Wilds only lets me look at the top 4. The reason why Seek the Wilds made it over Abundant Harvest is because it lets me get a creature or a land. And if I don't need the card, the land card at the time, or I don't get one of the ones that I actually want, I might end up pulling the creature that I need, which is even better. Whereas Abundant Harvest, as soon as I've picked whether it's land or non-land, I don't have a choice after that. I have to take whatever comes up first. So I didn't like that as much. Although I will say I love the artwork. But it is the second card that I pulled out of the deck. And continuing on, we have a Druidic Satchel. This is the thing that's going to make me Saproling. So, costs 3 to put in play, pay 2 and tap it, and I reveal the top part of my the top card of my library. If that card happens to be a creature, I get to make a Saproling. That's the reason why I needed the Saproling token. If it happens to be a land, it immediately comes onto the battlefield under my control, and it doesn't have to come in tapped unless the land says it comes in tapped, which is pretty good. And then finally, if it's not a land or a creature, I get 2 life. So I mean, and then the card just sits on top. It also sits on top if it's a creature. The only way it comes off the top of my deck is if it's a land. But what I thought was really nice about this is it's just a nice little way to get a bonus ability each turn. Since this deck has a lot of lands, this deck actually has officially 40 lands. So I figure there's a solid chance I'll have enough mana to pay for that ability, and Codie, even if both of them are out, and still probably be able to pay for an instant as well. Zimone Quandrix Prodigy is another one that's just too good not to include in this deck. Blue and green gets you a 1/2, pay 1, tap it, and you get to put an extra land on the battlefield each turn. So it's just another version of the Land of War Scout, except it costs me a mana to do the ability. What I love about this one, though, is pay 4 and tap it, and you can draw a card, but if you have 8 or more lands, you get to draw 2. So it's just an efficient way to do both things, get through the deck quickly, but also put out extra lands when I need them. This is one of the 2 cards I want to protect, and this is kind of like a very key component in this deck, because the queen here, allows me to essentially ensure that I can complete my main win con much more efficiently. So, whenever Vesuva enters the battlefield, the queen, whenever Omo enters the battlefield or attacks, I get to put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. Really don't care about the creature part, so probably not going to do that part, to be perfectly honest. But the land part is really important. Every land with an everything counter on it is every land type in addition to its other types. And every non-land creature with an everything counter on it has every creature type. So I mean, I don't care about the every creature type thing unless an opponent is playing something specific. Like, if they're playing something where, like, all vampires get a +1/+1 counter because of an enchantment they control, I might as well make all my stuff into vampires too, so I get the buff. But, I mean, otherwise, I'm really more focused on the land part because it makes every land have every type, which is really, really valuable in this deck. And finally, the alternate win con that is not the main focus is Helix Pinnacle. So as I said before, this thing has Shroud, which means you can't target this thing while it's on the battlefield, I think. I'm not sure if it applies to the graveyard or not. If it applies to the graveyard, that kind of sucks, but if it doesn't, then I can get this back too, with the Witchmark card that I showed you guys earlier. What's that card called? Now I'm going to forget. Rise of the Witch King. Witchmark. So anyways, you can pay X mana anytime to put X tower counters on this thing. So if I have nothing else to do in a turn, I can just tap whatever mana I have, put as many counters on this as I want. And at the beginning of my upkeep, if there are 100 or more counters on this thing, I automatically win the game. Now you'll notice this deck hasn't got anything in it that's really allowing me to proliferate, so I'm not going to be able to like super advance this beyond using mana. But as I said before, this deck has 40 lands, and since only 2 of them actually sacrifice themselves, pretty sure I've got enough mana to actually cover the cost. So I figure, like, if I had, say, 10 lands out and I'm only using 4 per turn for spells, I easily could get there within like 60s 10, 15, 16 turns, something like that. And I mean, you can always increase how much mana you put in or decrease it, like whatever. But I'm just saying, like it's a very doable thing in this deck, in my opinion. Although it would have been better if I put in like a Seedboard Muse or something, but I wanted to keep this deck at like a bracket 2 level. I really didn't want to like make this a super powerful deck. I want this to be like a very memey deck. And you're about to find out why. Because we're about to look at the meme. So what is the goal of this deck, you ask? I am going to show you. We are playing. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to actually put all these things because they got a little mixed up in my box. I apologize. Let's do it this way. Yes. Okay. I was going to show you the lands at the end, but I figure that makes no sense because all the cards are going to obviously give away what we have, so we're just going to go through it. We are playing a Gates deck. That is what this deck is. In the series 1 to 100, I was calling this my Every Guild Has a Gate deck. Every Guild Has Its Gate deck, which is supposed to be a play on Every Dog Has Its Day kind of idea. Anyways, I thought it was really corny and I liked it. It was a fun dad joke. In the video that I'm publishing for you guys today, I'm calling it something along the line of, I can't remember exactly what, but it had something to do with Codie's name. Oh, Codie the Cartographer. That's what I wanted to call it. Yes. Okay. So we've got the Izzet Guildgate, the Gruul Guildgate, the Selesnya Guildgate, the Boros Guildgate, the Golgari, the Simic, the Azorius, the Dimir, the Orzhov, and the Rakdos. And then in addition to that, I have a Gateway Plaza, which I forgot that I had in a different deck and realized that there was no reason for it to stay in that deck. So I took it out of there and put it into this one. I love this card because it actually counts as a gate. So that gives me 11. And then it taps for 1 mana of any color. So it's basically a command tower that is a gate. And then finally we have Baldur's Gate, which taps for colorless, or I can pay 2 and tap it and add X mana of any one color equal to the number of other gates I control, which currently I own 11 other gates. But, as I was saying before, the main reason why I love Vesuva is Vesuva can turn all my basics into gates. She can turn all my temples into gates as well. So essentially, as long as I can keep getting through combat with her and not have her die, which is why I want to have this stuff that lets me be unblockable and things like that in this deck. As long as I can pull that off, then I can turn all my other lands into gates, and that is really important because the main win con of this deck is obviously Maze's End. If you hadn't guessed it yet, you may be new to the game, in which case I hope you didn't take offense to my word, obviously, because I didn't know about this card until I got the starter kit from Foundations back when that came out last year. So this is really cool because it is a land. So that's why I need things that let me fetch lands back from the graveyard just in case it gets destroyed. Enters tapped, taps for colorless. I can pay 3 and tap this, return it to my hand. Then I search my library for a gate card, put it onto the battlefield. If I control 10 or more gates with different names after that resolves, I automatically win the game. So if Vesuva can turn even 3 of my basics into gates, say she turns a swamp, a mountain, and a forest into a gate, then all I need to have is 7 other gates out of the 12 that I own on the battlefield, or even 6 on the battlefield, sorry, when I pull off this trigger, and then I automatically win the game, which is pretty cool. And then to help us with the gate stuff, we have Open the Gates, Circuitous Route. This one lets me get 1 gate. This one lets me get 2. I'm obviously not fetching basics. Gave of the Guild Pact is pretty insane. It gives 1 creature Vigilance and Menace, and +1/+0 for every gate I control. It's a little expensive for the equip cost, but it's worth it, I believe. Guild Summit. Enters battlefield when Guild Summit enters the battlefield, you can tap any number of untapped gates you control and draw a card for each guild gate you tap this way. And then whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, you get to get an additional card, which is kind of nice. Hold the gates is much better though, because all my creatures are going to get +0/+1 for each gate I control, and all of them will have vigilance. So this one is way better than both those first two cards, in my opinion, but the likelihood that this is going to stay on the battlefield for very long is pretty slim, so that's why these two are a little bit helpful. This one I like in particular because he taps and then I can untap a gate. So that is very helpful because all the gates intertapped. Gate Creeper Vine, as well as my win con, but technically I can't untap my win con, unfortunately, with that. Gate Creeper Vine is 1 in a green for a 0/2 with Defender, and when it enters, I get to search my library for a gate, reveal it, put it in my hand. These ones put them onto the battlefield, if I remember correctly. No, wait. This one puts it in my hand. That one puts it onto the battlefield. Okay. District Guide, 2 in a green. Enters battlefield, search your library for a basic land or a gate, reveal it, put it into your hand. So another one that's just going to get me an extra gate. Those ones are all really helpful compared to the other cards that let me fetch lands, because the other ones obviously don't let me get gates, but these 4 do. Gateway Sneak is nice because whenever a gate you control enters, this guy is unblockable, and whenever he deals combat damage, I get to draw a card, so it's just another way to get through my deck a little bit quicker. Armory Guard, 3 and a white for 2/5. Has vigilance if I have a gate, so pretty solid. I can keep using it to protect myself and do battle. This one I love because when it enters battlefield, if I have 2 or more gates, I automatically gain 7 life. There is a angel that lets you gain 2 life per gate you control, and I contemplated putting her in, but she's a little more expensive, 1, and 2, if she comes out early, she's really not going to give you much. Unless you have 4 gates, you're not going to get more life than what you would currently get with this card, so I just felt this one was a better one to include. Plus, I wanted to have more green and blue, so that's why there's more green and blue basics. Gatekeeper Gargoyle. This one's fun because it comes in with a +1/+1 counter on it for each gate you control, so similar to the Angel, and again, I might take this one out eventually and put the Angel in instead, because the Angel is about the same cost, except I think it's 4 and 2 white. Anywho, this one won't give me life, obviously, but this one can get really, really powerful if there's enough gates on board when it comes out, and it has flying, so it has evasion, which is pretty good. Gate Colossus is insane. 8 mana, but it costs 1 less to cast for every gate you control, so the more gates you get out, the cheaper it becomes. And it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. It's an 8/8, so that's pretty insane. And whenever a gate enters the battlefield, you can put this thing from your graveyard on top of your library. So it's going to get targeted and destroyed frequently, but you're going to be able to put it back and then play it again. And each time that you bring it back, you're going to probably have more gates, so you'll be able to play it for cheaper. And the final card in this deck is Nine Fingers Keen, and this is the other creature that I want to be able to get back as often as possible, because this card is insanely good for this deck. So, for 1, a black, a green, and a blue, you get a 4/4 with Menace, and ward 9 life. So in order to target this, somebody has to pay 9 life. That's insane. That's like almost a quarter of their starting total. Whenever this thing deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 9 cards of your library. You can put a gate from among them onto the battlefield. Then if you control 9 or more gates, you get to put the rest into your hand. Otherwise, they go onto the bottom of your library in a random order, which is fine. I don't care about that part so much, but the big thing is, again, I need her to get through because I don't want her to get destroyed, 1, and 2, her trigger actually does demand she do damage. So my goal with this card is essentially to swing in, have hopefully the bookcase or the security bypass or something like that to let her get through unblocked. And then once she does get through unblocked, I can cycle through my deck that much quicker and get the gate thing going. And yeah, that is my Every Guild Has Its Gate deck, which is being called Codie the Cartographer in this episode, as I said, but that is not the main name of the deck for sure. And with that said, oh, I forgot to show you the final card that I pulled. I pulled Savala out. And what did I put in? I put in another thing that let me do... What was it? Oh, I remember. Actually, Savala was a trade-off for the one creature I wanted. The elf that I showed you before. But I put in the Disentomb. I originally had taken that out. And I wanted to put it in. I couldn't think of what I wanted to take out for it. So... this was replacing the elf that taps and puts a land on the battlefield. That was replacing one of the land drop cards, and the other card that was doing the land into hand thing, I took out for Disentomb. So, yeah. Those were the 3 cards I swapped out for the people who were actually watching the 1 to 100 series. And now, as promised, we will do this pack of Strixhaven. One more time, I want to say, as I'm getting this open, thank you to Shomenuchi. And please go check out his channel, because he is amazing. On his way to 300 subs. We are on our way to 500. And yeah, we got a Fractal and an Elemental. That's pretty cool. I needed some more Fractal tokens, actually, so that's really nice. Quick Study, 2 and a blue. Draw 2 cards. If I remember correctly, the land's on the back. So I think we want to look at the... Yeah, we'll check the land out. It's a forest. So we'll put the land and the token there, and then we got the Quick Study, 2 and a blue, draw 2 cards. That's pretty decent for an instant. Goblin Glassrite, 1 and a red for a 2/2. Enters prepared. Craft with Pride for 1 red. You get to make a treasure token. So if you have a way to flicker this on and off, that would be insanely good. Or something that'll let you prepare things, because then you can get a treasure every turn. Or multiple treasures even. Shopkeeper's Bane, 2 and a green for a 4/2 trample. When it attacks, you gain 2 life. That's insanely good. I kind of like that a lot, other than the butt being a little low. I'd rather it be a 2/4, obviously, but I'm okay with that. That is a pretty cool card. Pull from the grave, 2 and a black. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand and gain 2 life. Well, damn. We should open this pack before we did this deck. But these cards will go into something else for sure. I have no doubt about that. Rehearsed Debater, 2 and a white for a 3/3 with Vigilance. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, this guy gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Repartee. Huh. Of course I talk to myself. Who wouldn't want to hear me speak? That's funny. A little bruised, a little broken, but at least no longer dead. Pests really live up to their name. Even the most familiar formula can yield unexpected outcomes. I forgot to do the flavor text for you guys, sorry. Inkling Mascot, 1 white and 1 black for a 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets one creature, this guy gets flying until end of turn, and you surveil 1. At the ready when words fail. Ooh, Fractal Mascot. Trample 6/6 for 4 and a green and a blue. When it enters, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Neat. The name and theory given form and function. Okay. Technically counts as a fractal, so if you have something that boosts off fractals, that's pretty good. Colossus of the Blood Age. 4, a red and a white for a 6/6. When it enters, it deals 3 damage to each opponent and you gain 3 life. When it dies, discard any number of cards and draw that many cards. Ooh, +1. Nice. I like that one a lot. It's very versatile. Brush Off, 2 and 2 blue. Costs 1 and a blue less if it targets an instant or sorcery spell. And it's a counter spell. So that's very useful, actually. I also love the artwork on this one. Very colorful. I like the artwork on that one too, actually. And that one. The last 3 artworks have been really pretty. Witherbloom Charm. Black and green. Sacrifice a permanent if you do draw 2 cards. Gain 5 life. Or destroy target non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Instant speed. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. Traumatic Critique. X, blue and red. Deals X damage to any target. Draw 2 cards and discard a card. That's a fun one for a certain deck. The artist should suffer for their craft, not the audience. I like that. And, oh, we got 2 more. Ooh, Helping Hand. That's pretty. White. Return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Kindness is a war of its own, and one that must never be lost. And finally, Impractical Joke. Ooh, an uncommon and hollow. Red, damage can't be prevented this turn. This thing deals 3 damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Strixhaven students have a sense of humor. The spirits of the Blood Age do not. Fair enough. I mean, I think that was a really good pack all around. I don't think there was anything in there that I would not put into a deck of some kind. That is amazing. Thank you very much, show, for the pack. We just went over the 30-minute mark by like 3 minutes, which isn't so bad for me for a change. I'm going to cap it off here, though, guys.
Please go check out Mo's pages for her GoFundMe and her Caring Bridge. If you can share those, that would be amazing. Thanks.
Much love to you all from Kaba, who's at home, and myself to you in the car. Take care. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you all tune in for the next one. Love you all. Have a great day. Bye.